Welcome, and thank you for viewing this video on how to use the scale and scope of safety assessment methods in the project development process guide. The material is divided into 5 sections to address these guiding questions. You may complete the entire presentation from start to finish, or use the table of contents feature on the left to skip around and view specific sections. This section describes the general purpose of the guide. Safety is a key consideration throughout the project development process. Project development professionals, who include planners, designers, and analysts, can use a variety of safety assessment methods to inform, justify, and defend project development decisions. These project professionals are the target audience for this informational guide. The purpose of this guide is to help project development professionals select suitable safety assessment methods at each step of the project development process. To achieve this objective, the Scale and Scope Guide describes 7 safety assessment methods that are presented in the Highway Safety Manual, cites different uses for these methods, including the scale and scope of the analysis required, and helps users identify safety assessment methods through a decision-making framework and accompanying examples. In conjunction with the Highway Safety Manual, this guide serves a broad array of transportation professionals with an easy-to-navigate format, helps users identify and apply suitable methods for quantitatively assessing safety performance impacts of project development decisions, and provides examples that illustrate the thought process for selecting safety assessment methods at each phase of the project development process. This section describes how to navigate the guide. The guide is organized into 5 chapters. Chapter 1 introduces potential safety assessment methods and their applications. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 each provide additional information to help practitioners select safety assessment methods for a specific project development phase, with examples. Chapter 5 features a continuous case study example that describes how to implement the guide through each phase of the project development process, from planning and scoping through final design. While a review of Chapter 1 is the preferred starting point, the guide is written so that users can refer directly to the relevant chapter if needed. This module describes key background information regarding the guide. This figure illustrates the project development process within the broader context of the project life cycle. Transportation agencies differ in how they characterize the project development process, so the Scale and Scope Guide describes a generalization of this process that professionals can relate to their agency's own approach. The project development process generally includes activities associated with planning and scoping, alternatives analysis, environmental analysis, and preliminary and final design of an individual project. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 each correspond with the implementation of safety assessment methods during a particular project development phase. The type of project is an important consideration in selecting a suitable safety assessment method. These project types represent varying levels of pavement work. 1R and 2R projects generally consist of routine maintenance activities and pavement resurfacing. 3R projects typically involve major rehabilitation, including the construction of low-cost safety improvements. 4R projects expand upon this and incorporate major construction efforts that change the character of a facility. Finally, the NL project type refers to projects on new locations. Understanding the type of project being considered helps guide the selection of appropriate safety assessment methods. The safety assessment methods presented in the guide use one or more of these foundational elements. Observed crashes refer to 1 or more years of crash history for a location. A crash modification factor, or CMF, is a measure of the safety effectiveness for a particular roadway treatment or design element. For example, a CMF value of 0.80 would suggest that the presence of a treatment would result in a 20% decrease in crashes. A safety performance function, or SPF, is a statistically derived equation that estimates the average number of crashes per year likely to occur on a roadway of a particular type with a particular traffic volume. Each foundational element can be used independently or in combination to inform project decisions. Safety assessment methods can be generally categorized as basic, intermediate, and advanced based on the use of these foundational elements. Basic safety assessment methods largely rely on observed crash data and CMFs related to observed crashes. Intermediate safety assessment methods incorporate additional information pertaining to similar facilities with similar traffic volumes. This information is used to compute SPFs and develop a more reliable estimate of predicted crashes. Finally, advanced safety assessment methods include all three foundational elements and generally result in the most reliable estimates of the expected number of crashes. Advanced safety assessment methods require even more information than intermediate safety assessment methods. These resources provide additional background information pertaining to the 7 safety assessment methods and their foundational elements. Click the related web links to access the resources. This module describes how to use the guide. Chapters 2 through 4 of the guide provide information needed to select appropriate safety assessment methods during each phase of the project development process. To use the guide, you can begin with a safety-related question and by reviewing Table 1 and Table 2 to determine the applicable project development phase and related task. The next step is to go to the chapter corresponding with that phase. Chapter 2, Planning and Scoping, Chapter 3, Alternatives Identification and Evaluation, or Chapter 4, Preliminary and Final Design. The suitability of a particular safety assessment method is a function of the project phase, project task, project type, and available resources. Each chapter begins with an overview of the project phase and related tasks, outlining key considerations for each step of the project development process. The introduction is followed by a safety assessment method selection table, a decision-making framework used to select the appropriate assessment method, and a table of associated data requirements for each method. Finally, each chapter provides examples that demonstrate the selection process in a variety of settings. The safety assessment method selection tables are a key focal point of the guide, identifying safety assessment methods suitable for tasks within the applicable project development phase. Checkmarks within the selection table suggest suitable methods for each related task and are, in some cases, distinguished by project type. These recommendations serve as a guide, but agencies can modify them to address specific needs. Assessment methods are grouped into categories describing their predictive reliability. The level of predictive reliability generally increases along the spectrum of methods from basic to advanced, as indicated by this arrow. At the same time, the required resources for the analysis, including staff, information, and time, will also increase, as indicated by this arrow. It is important to not only consider the suitability of each assessment method, but also the feasibility of applying a method given the resources available. In some cases, it may not be feasible to fully implement the preferred method due to limitations in site information, crash data, or similar information. In other cases, it may not make sense or even be possible to employ the most rigorous method. For example, you can't use the advanced method for a new alignment because there would be no observed crash history. To aid in the application of safety assessment methods, Chapters 2 through 4 each provide a set of examples that address a variety of project settings. An additional set of examples is provided in Chapter 5, guiding the user at each phase of the project development process through a continuous case study. Each example begins with an overview of the problem, outlining the project phase, related task, project type, and selected safety assessment method. In addition, the problem overview provides information pertaining to the calculation method, the level of analysis, and the basic objective of the analysis. Example 2.5, which is set during the planning and scoping process, evaluates the effect of lane widening on fatal and injury crashes on a 2-lane rural highway. In this case, crash data is not available. The selected safety assessment method is the SPF with CMF adjustment. While all 7 safety assessment methods presented in the guide can be calculated by hand, the choice is to use a tool-based option. This will require an intermediate level of analysis. After the problem overview is a supporting description of the problem. The problem description summarizes site characteristics, available data, and project constraints. In addition, the project description re-emphasizes the project type, related task, and objective of the analysis. In this case, when establishing a project scope, the analyst wishes to estimate the reduction of fatal and injury crashes due to potential lane widening improvements. The main body of the example describes the analysis. This begins with the selection of an appropriate safety assessment method, using the approach described in this module. Based on the Planning and Scoping Safety Assessment Method Selection Table, the established project scope task and the 3R project type are associated with the 4 basic and 2 intermediate safety assessment methods. After consideration of the analysis objective, data collected, and computational tools available, SPF with CMF adjustment is selected as the most practical option. The example continues with a step-by-step walkthrough of the analysis. Example 2.5 shows the use of an HSM spreadsheet tool. First, the analyst enters site information into the tool for each lane width option. The tool calculates and tabulates the predicted crash frequency for each option. Next, the analyst summarizes the total number of predicted crashes per year for the 3 lane width scenarios: 10 feet, 11 feet, and 12 feet. Finally, the analyst uses this information to summarize the total predicted reduction in fatal and injury crashes. According to this analysis, widening the lanes from 10 feet to 11 feet would result in a 12% reduction in fatal and injury crashes, while widening from 10 feet to 12 feet would result in a 15% reduction. At the end of each example is a section summarizing the analysis findings. This section describes how to interpret the results of the analysis, provides guidance on possible errors to avoid, and suggests alternative approaches that may be employed if the selected assessment method is not fully feasible. This module describes how to download the guide and related resources. There are several tools and resources available to help you implement safety assessment methods during the project development process. Click the related web links to access the resources. The first resource listed here is the Scale and Scope guide discussed throughout this video. The second resource is the Highway Safety Manual website. The HSM website contains tools and guidance pertaining to the 7 safety assessment methods explored in the Scale and Scope guide. The remaining resources include state examples of similar safety assessment guides, including Virginia DOT's Traffic Operations and Safety Analysis Manual, Oregon DOT's Analysis Procedures Manual, Ohio DOT's Safety Analysis Guidelines, and Washington State DOT's Safety Analysis Guide. Thank you for your interest in the Scale and Scope of Safety Assessment Methods in the Project Development Process Guide. We hope that you have gained a better understanding of the selection and application of appropriate safety assessment methods at each stage of the project development process.